and welcome to OnCamera, a video interview series where we chat to some of our resident experts here at Onfido. Today we're chatting to Onfido's Global Head of Fraud. Hi Michael, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
So before we kick off, could you tell me a little bit about your background and what it is that you do at Onfido?
What I currently do or what I normally do?
Both?
But now, what I normally do is I fly around the world. I visit our international offices, train my colleagues, train our clients, and it's more education about fraud in and around identity documents. Talk a lot to clients, listen to their problems, provide them with advice of what is the best solution, what they can implement or what they need to use. Next to that, I work together a lot with the other document experts within Onfido, looking at new documents coming onto the market, looking at new fraud trends, new attack vectors, looking at the incoming metrics or all the metrics we have within Onfido, and we use that information to talk with our product teams, engineering teams, research teams, and advise them and try to develop new features, to catch the bad guys. That's the main reason why we as fraud experts are in this company. Currently, what I'm doing a lot, because I have some spare time, because I'm not spending it in the air, but now in my home office, I work on several different projects. One of them, for example, is the creation of fraud dashboards for our clients so that they have more insights of what's happening on their account, up to creation of content for learning material for Interpol. Before Onfido, I worked for several other identity verification providers and actually started my career about 20 years ago for the Dutch government. Started at border control, checking passports, sitting in a desk at Schiphol Airport. And over the years, I did my education and studies around fraud and especially around identity document fraud, and ended up at Onfido, as mentioned, about 2.5 years ago.
Nice. So I guess from your work on border control, you'll know very well how traditionally we check documents in a physical environment. But at Onfido, I guess part of the challenge we're facing is to verify these documents in a digital environment. So could you tell me a bit more about how we're moving that checks and those documents from a 3D to a 2D world?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's actually one of the reasons why I left the government and made a switch to the commercial side of the job. In a physical environment, we have around 40 different security features in a passport, and you can tilt the document, you can look with a magnifier, different light sources. And now we stuck with only a white light image, one image on a screen. And for me, that's way more challenging to authenticate those documents instead of in a physical environment. So what we're doing now is you're looking at those documents, make the translation of those security features into, I call it indicators in an online environment, and try to use those features together with product and our research teams to develop algorithms to check these documents in an automated way. But yeah, it's you're right. It's way more challenging compared to a physical environment.
And obviously, we've built into our tools at Onfido kind of different mechanisms to check these documents in a digital environment. But I suppose looking to the wider world, do you think that as I guess we're going to see more and more companies and more organizations looking to do digital identity verification, do you think that we'll see features emerge on identity documents to kind of support that, or even move from physical identity documents to digital identity documents?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, two questions. Let's start with the first one. Talking about physical identity documents, and are they taken in account that most of the checks nowadays happen online? I hope they're thinking about it. They should think about it. But when we look in practice, what we see nowadays is that physical checking is still the guideline for them in the process of designing identity documents, unfortunately. What we do see in some security features is they try to tackle this problem. For example, looking at holographic features, they try to incorporate security features in identity documents, which we can use in an online environment to check. But yeah, when you ask me, it should be more and less physical, more digital. Then the second question, it's digital identity documents. That's a whole new topic, and that faces us with a lot more challenges. As we see now that a lot of countries are thinking about shifting their identity documents towards a digital identity document. In some countries, you have the physical driver license, for example, next to your digital driver license, but that opens a complete new can of attack vectors, which uh, which faces us with a lot more challenges overall. Because when we have that physical document, we can make easily a translation into those digital features and create algorithms for that. But when a government is developing a digital identity document, yeah, then you go more in cyber attacks, and it's more deeper into cyber security instead of just making an easy translation from physical to digital.
So you've already preempted my next question there, but it was going to be, so when we're making that shift to digital, how is that changing the fraud landscape? Could you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah, the fraud landscape is changing. Now, if you would ask me, or you ask me this question, then I would say, yeah, when is it changing? Is it changing a lot? When I look at the past 6 months, I say it didn't change anything. Looking at the past 2 years, didn't change a lot. Looking at the past 5 years, I would say there we saw the change. And the change started with a lot of companies moving towards the online environment. In the past, you needed to go to a bank to open an account. Now you can just open your laptop and from behind your laptop open that account. So for fraudsters, it's way more easy to commit fraud nowadays than it was in the past. And you don't need big criminal organizations overall, but if you're just an individual and you're bored a little bit, you can just try to make your own document behind your laptop in Photoshop. And if you spend some time in it's quite easy as well. And you can just try. And if you don't manage with company A, you go to company B. And what we see is that people making it's just their job. It's their 9 to 5 job what we see. Now, looking into digital identity documents, yeah, will it change? Yes, it will change. But we don't know yet because there are some governments that issue these digital identity documents, but they're not widely accepted in online branches. For example, if you want to open an account, the online or the digital identity document is not accepted yet. So it will change for sure, 100%. But what it will bring us and the challenges it will bring together with it, I don't know.
Do you think it's getting harder for businesses to protect themselves against fraud?
Simple answer, yes. It's a very short answer. I will expand a little bit on that. As we already told, the world is shifting more towards online. And as mentioned, you don't need to build your own printing lab to create a fake identity document, but you just open your laptop. And it's not all about big criminal organizations anymore. Of course, that happens, and we see those attacks as well. But we see a lot of individuals just trying to gain some money in an online environment, whatever you want to do, opening accounts, rent cars, order food. It's just challenging. And because it's easier for the individual to commit fraud, companies will face more problems in protecting themselves.
And I guess you must do a lot of reading around kind of what's happening in the press, what fraud headlines are we seeing. Have you seen anything recently that you think is the latest headline, the latest fraud attacks?
The latest headline, yeah, is I was always looking in the newspaper, especially front page. I'm always interested in what's happening around fraud. A lot of data breaches. That's one thing. Leaked PII information, so the personal information which you can find on the light web and the dark web, will get cheaper. It's also one of the headlines that we saw quite a lot in the past. But I ask myself, is it still headlines? Because if I look in the newspaper nowadays, I don't see it on the front page anymore. It's on page 17. So is that data breach, is it still that important? For me, yes. But it's so common nowadays that it's actually no news anymore. What I think we will see in the coming months, coming years, that's about that digital identity, what you were referring to. It's new. Countries are developing it now. It's new on the market. So we will see new types of attack vectors. And as long as it's not secure enough or not adapted by that many countries, we will see big attacks. And I think that will be the new headlines. And also, as mentioned, we don't know what's happening yet because it's not so widely spread. So let's see what comes now.
So I guess we'll round off and say thank you for joining us today and providing some great insight into fraud and how we deal with fraud on Onfido.
Thank you for having me, and hope to see you all soon in person.